The history of humanity has witnessed various challenging periods, harboring a past filled with tragic events. Among these events, one that left profound marks throughout history is the pandemic known as the Black Death. Originating in Asia and spreading to Europe in the 14th century, this catastrophe ushered in a dark era, impacting not only as a pandemic but also profoundly affecting societies, economies, and religions. Beginning in the mid-Middle Ages, the Black Death rapidly disseminated, causing millions of lives to be lost and leading to significant social, economic, and religious repercussions. In terms of social impact, the Black Death brought about tremendous tragedy, chaos, and a weakening of societal norms within communities. Economically, there was a substantial decline in production and trade due to deaths and fear. From a religious perspective, society perceived this calamity as a punishment from God. Because of the long-lasting effects it had on many facets of society, the Black Death is an important historical event. The catastrophic epidemic caused a sharp decline in population, which in turn caused a labor shortage and the eventual disintegration of feudal regimes. More lasting and serious consequence was the drastic reduction of the amount of land under cultivation due to the deaths of so many laborers. This proved to be the ruin of many landowners. The shortage of labor compelled them to substitute wages or money rents in place of labor services in an effort to keep their tenants. Aside from causing extensive social turmoil and instability, the Black Death also destroyed societal conventions and structures due to the loss of loved ones and the dread of spreading. Significant negative effects on economy also resulted from a fall in commerce and manufacturing, which exacerbated the social unrest and class disputes. All things considered, the Black Death continues to be a crucial historical event that altered communities and left a deep impression on humankind's collective memory. The profound societal transformation the Black Death brought was among its most important consequences. Tragic deaths of loved ones and friends left communities in shock, and everyday life became engulfed in disorder. Lawlessness resulted from the disease's quick spread, which caused societal structures and norms to disintegrate. The disintegration of social order was evident in the refusal to carry out obligations, including taking care of sick or arranging funerals, as well as in the rise in violent and criminal crimes. The Black Death destroyed society's foundation and left behind a weaker and more confused citizenry.
The Black Death had a significant impact on labor and social structures. With a massive decline in population, there was a shortage of laborers, leading to changes in traditional feudal system. The consequences of this immense loss of life was a significant shift in demographics. Entire communities were decimated, leaving behind empty villages and towns. Serfs and patients who were previously bound to the land now had more freedom and bargaining power. As they could demand higher wages and better working conditions, this shift in labor dynamics also contributed to the rise of merchant class. As trade and commerce become increasingly important for economic recovery, the decline in production and trade caused significant hardship. The distribution of trade routes and the loss of merchant and skilled workers led to a decline in economic activity. This resulted in inflation and scarcity of goods, further exacerbating the economic crisis. Additionally, the breakdown of social structures caused by the purge led a revolution of social hierarchies and norms, as people had to adapt to the changing circumstances and forge new social relationships. The fabric of society was distributed as social norms and structures weakened. As fear and uncertainty prevailed, social divisions also become more pronounced with increased animosity between different social classes.
The impact of the Black Death on art, literature, and cultural expressions cannot be overlooked. This devastating pandemic greatly influenced the artistic and literary works of the time. The artwork and literature created during and after the Black Death often reflected the despair and grief and the permeated society. Artists and writers depicted scenes of death, decay, and suffering, reflecting the traumatic experiences of the time. This period also saw the rise of dance macabre and memento mori. Motifs, conflicts, and relationship of death and alive can be interpreted in artworks such as Triumph of Death by Francisco Trini and The Dance of Death by Bernd Notke, where the void of Black Death and harshness of human experience was filled with art. Overall, the Black Death had a profound influence on the cultural expressions of the time, leaving behind a lasting impact on art and literature.
The Black Death had profound influence on religious beliefs and practices during the 14th century. As the death toll continued to rise, people began to question the role of God in their lives and sought answers through their religious practices. The plague was seen as a punishment from God, leading to an increase in religious fervor and devotion. People turned to prayer, penance, and pilgrimage in hopes of appeasing God and finding salvation. Before the plague even started, the church's hierarchical bureaucracy had already begun to deteriorate, which was one of the main reasons the disease had such an adverse effect on it. Even prior to the arrival of the plague, the Catholic Church was in decline. Over time, the church emphasis shifted from spirituality to politics and wealth. As a result of its weakness, the church was already at a disadvantage during this period. The awful impact of Black Death not only challenged religious institutions, but it also reshaped the ways in which individuals understood their relationship with the divine.
The Black Death's devastating impact on society during the 14th century left behind important lessons that shaped future societies. The scale of the tragedy highlighted the need for improved public health measures and sanitation practices, leading to advancements in medicine and the establishment of institutes such as hospitals. The experience also fostered a sense of individualism and self-reliance as a communities faced immense loss and had to adapt to new social structures. Moreover, the Black Death challenged traditional religious beliefs and spurred intellectual movements, paving the way for the Renaissance and re-examination of long-lasting cultural assumptions. Therefore, the Black Death played a pivotal role in shaping the future social landscape.
In conclusion, the Black Death was a catastrophic event that had far-reaching consequences on societies, economies, and religions. It caused immense tragedy and chaos, upending societal norms and structures. The Black Death was an unprecedented catastrophe that swept across Europe in the 14th century, leaving behind death and devastation in its wake. The social impact of this death pandemic was enormous as communities were thrown into chaos and societies were shaken to their core. Traditional structures and norms were weakened, and the tragedy affected people from all walks of life. Economically, the Black Death caused a decline in production and trade, exacerbating conflicts between the upper and lower classes. From a religious perspective, people perceived this calamity as a punishment from God, leading to the shifts in fears and religious focus. The impact on religious institutions and practices cannot be understated, as they were profoundly influenced by the devastation caused by the Black Death. While the Black Death was a dark and destructive period in history, it also served as a catalyst for a social change and resilience in the face of adversity.